Hi everyone, my name is Meredith, one of the Husqvarna Viking educators, and it is time for another block of the month, Sweet Dreams Quilt. So it is July, so here is what the quilt looks like. Let's show you that first. And we are going to be doing the X marks the spot block is what they're called. And it's going to be these right here that look like, I'm doing it backwards, little X's right there. So we're going to make 6 of those blocks in the live today. I've already made some of them. We're going to make one. It's a super simple block. I feel like I say that every month that like, oh, this is the easiest one I've done so far. But this is a very simple block to make. You're just making 6 of them. So, but I like to recap what we have already made. And if you are just now joining us, you can find in the description the link to find the quilt instructions and everything like that. And then you can go back on our page also and see all the previous videos that I've done. I've done January through June, and then this is July. So let's talk about the ones that we have already done. So in January, we did this one here. This one is the inspiration collage block, like a rail fence one with our embroidery blocks here. So in January, we did a couple. We did that one. We did this one here, which is the long rail fence. And then we did this one here, which is just, I think we just called it, it's just a regular rail fence, just a larger one here. So we did this one here. So those are the first 3 blocks that we did in the month of January. Very simple to do. With some of them, we used floating stitches to put them together. So you've got that little extra decorative stitch there. So that was January. For February, we did these arrowhead, these are the flying geese blocks here. So we had this one here, and there were 6 of them on this one. And then there's a larger one here that has 8. So we did these and one other one in February. I'll show you those. So those were the flying geese. And then this one is the arrowhead one. So this is the bigger one here, or littler flying geese, but a bigger block here. So that was February. And then for March, we did have my little cheat sheet here of what each of them are called. In March, we did the friendship star. This one here, I love doing this one. Again, if you're mindful of your directionally based fabric, you can make it look really neat with your lines and things like that. So there was that one, as well as this is the double friendship star one. So you have a bigger friendship star, but you did a half square triangle and half square triangle up here. So this one here, that was for March. And then for April, it was National Serger Month. So we actually used our serger to make this block. You can still do it with your sewing machine if you don't have a serger. This one is the Stitch Motif 9 patch block. So we did all of our 9 patches and then sewed it to our bigger pieces. I'm really excited to quilt this because some of these blocks are really big, and that gives you a lot of space to do some really fun quilting designs and things like that in. So that was for April for National Serger Month. And then for May, because May flowers, we did these Dresden plate ones. They look like little flowers to me. We did this one and this one. Very simple to do. Dresden plates are some of my favorite, and we did some applique techniques with the applique stitch up here, the blanket stitch, and then a satin stitch down here. So we did 2 of those. And that was for May. And then for June, last month, we did this Morning Glory block, which is this big one here. And this one, it's like a drunkard's path. So we worked on sewing on a curve, which is very simple if you've never done it before. And I also said this would make like a good pillow too, like a good floor pillow. Some of these blocks are really large. And I think just sewing them on their own and making some floor pillows would be a really fun idea as well. So that is what we have done so far. We are halfway through the year. We are getting into our second half of the year now. I'm going to put all these out of the way over here. And so next we are going to be doing the X marks the spot blocks. So I have already sewn a couple of them together. I'm going to get my instructions to show you. I've already sewn a couple together because it's just very repetitive. And so you don't need to see me sew all 6 of them. But here they are. What I ended up doing with mine was I ended up cutting some of my white, and we'll talk about the different cuts and things like that on the instructions in just a second. I'm going to show you that, but I wanted to show you how different they all are. So each of my X's are different, and then I have 4 different, corner points here, and then I did white on the opposite side. So I'm excited to lay it all out and get everything lined up really nicely. Again, if you have a directionally based fabric, just keep that in mind. So if you look at the X on this one and these boots, the little rain boots, I made sure that they were all flowing in different directions there as well, like I did on this one here. So they it matches, or it has a rhyme or reason to it. Here's another one. And here's my 5th one. And then we're going to make our 6th one together today. So let's talk about the instructions just a little bit because it has you in the instructions. It only gives you the cut for 1 of them, but we need to make 6 of them. So just quick, simple little math here. So here, this block is on 2 pages. Got 2 pages for it. But on this first page, you're going to see that it says 4 6.5 inch blocks by 6.5, and then what was that? 8 5 by 5. So that is just for 1 block. So we obviously need to do the math and times it by 6. So you're going to need 24 6.5 by 6.5 inch blocks, and that is going to be for your center X. So just keep that in mind. All of my X's are different. You can make them all the same, all different, whatever you would like. So you need, what did I say? 24, 4 of each for the 6 different X's is what you need there. And then the other one, you need 8 5-inch blocks for 1, but 48 for 6 of them. And so that's going to be for these little triangle pieces here. Again, I did on mine white on each side and then a print on the other. So I think I had 6 or 8 different prints. I forget how many I did, but I needed 24 white and then 24 of an assortment of colors. Or again, if you want to make your X the same and these the same on 1 block and change it up on the other, make them all different, whatever you would like to do. I think in the picture, they actually do all different prints for their triangle parts when you snowball it there. So it's really up to you. Lots of different ways you can do it. This is just how I did it with the fabric that I had. So for 1 block, let me go through it one more time here with you. You need 4 of the same for your X. That's what I would recommend so that you can get the look of the X. So I have those 4 blocks right here, and these are 6.5 by 6.5. So I have 4 of those, and then you need 8 more 5 by 5. Again, you can do all 4 different prints or all 8 different prints. I did 4 prints. I have 4 here, and then 4 white ones as well. That has been going with my entire quilt the entire time. So we have all of those, and that's all you need. Very easy to cut, 6 by 6 and 5.5, or 6.5 by 6.5 and 5 by 5. Very simple. To prep it just a little bit, you can take your 5 by 5 blocks, and we are going to draw a line. This way, here we go. A line down the middle. Do you see that? And I'm on the back side here. So all of my pieces have that line. And I used a Frixion pen or just a heat transfer pen or water soluble pen is all I used. So I did that on all of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our, let me switch over here. Let's back up just a little bit so you can see a little better. So I'm going to take one of my 6.5 by 6.5. This is the part for my X. And I'm going to take one of my 5 by 5 and we're going to put it on one corner right here. We want our diagonal to go across this way, not down the middle from point to point. We want it to go this way. So all we're going to do is we're going to sew down these lines. I like to chain piece. So I know I laid, let me come back over here. I laid all of my squares out beforehand so I could kind of get an idea of the order that I wanted them to be in. So I am going to chain piece a lot of these together. So I'm going to chain piece all of my main piece with my other print here, right sides together. I'm going to do all 4 of those first. Then I'm going to go back and we're going to do the white ones so that I'm being consistent so that when I put them together, they line up like this versus having one of these over here and a white one. But you could do that too. That's a good idea too. You could have one white, one print, one white, one print, and so forth. That's another way to do it. So many different ways. That's what I really like about this quilt is it's very scrappy. And so you can make it work with really your whole stash that you have. You don't have to go out and buy any fabric for it if you have a good stash. So let's go ahead and sew all of these together and then we'll go to the next step. So let's come over here. And again, I'm going to chain piece these. I have my 1/4 inch foot on, but I don't have the one with the guide. I know that you guys know I mention that often how much I like the one with the guide, but we don't need that for this right now. So again, I have got my main X piece here, my 6.5 by 6.5 with one of my print 5 by 5s. And I'm going to lay it with the diagonal going this way, not this way. And we're going to just sew. Another trick, this is just something that I have found over time that works for me. I don't sew directly on that line. I actually sew right beside the line, literally right next to that line. I find that when we cut that 1/4 inch off to fold over, I get a better fold over with that. So I'll show that to you once we get to that point of cutting as well. And I see this floral print here. So when I cut that, I want to make sure I have that versus when I sew here, I'm going to cut this off and there's not much there. So keep that in mind too. If you have fabric that has more of a print on it in certain areas and you want that to be seen, just be mindful of where that print falls. So we are going to sew all of these together and then we'll go on to our next step. There we go. And so here we have our little chain piece, all of our pieces together here. Get some of my scissors to cut these apart. So I wanted to show you sort of what I meant by sewing just right on the side of that line. So I hope you can see this here. Let's see. So if you see my drawn line and you can see that I'm a little bit to the corner more, not towards the middle of the block, but to the corner. You want to be just a little bit to that corner. Let me see if there's another one that you can see just a little bit clearer. This one up here, you can see a little bit. So if you see where my red line is, and then you see that my stitching is just to the outside of that, not to the inside, but to the outside. So what we're going to do next is we are going to cut these 1/4 inch. We're going to cut this outside part over here, not over here, and just cut that off. And then we're just going to set that aside for now. So let's cut all 4 of those, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have cut all of those excess parts off, all the excess corner off there, and I have pressed them open. So I have 4 of those that are all the same right here, just like that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew the white piece on the other corner there. So just on this side over here, and same process. I'm going to chain piece them all together. Then we're going to cut them and press them over. So let's get to sewing them. So again, I've got this right here, my X piece, and then I'm going to take one of my white pieces, and we want that line to go corner to corner, or side to side, not corner to corner. So parallel with the one that we had already done. So just like this. So now I have all of those sewn together and we are going to snip them apart. And I'm going to show you again. So now we have this here and we're going to do that same process where we're going to cut 1/4 inch from our seam right here and then press it open. So I'm going to do that for all 4 of these and I will be right back and then we're going to sew it together and we have our block done. Okay, so I don't think we talked about this too much. So I want to tell you a little tip that I found when I was doing this. When I went to sew my first block together, the seams went the same direction. And so they didn't like inset, so puzzle piece into each other the way that I've shown you in the past when you're doing squares and things like that. So I wanted to keep that in mind. So before you go to press them, go ahead and sew everything and cut everything, but lay your block out. So let's lay this block out. So I'm going to show you here. Let's see if I can get it just a little bit wider so you can see here. So here is my block here, and I want to get it laid out how I want it to be. So actually, bear with me here. We're going to move this around. I'm probably going to edit this out. So we want to lay our block out first so that we can make sure we're laying it in the right direction and that everything lines up how we want it to be. So I'm actually going to switch these just a little bit here. I want this one over here, and I'm going to switch these like this. Move this up so you can see. So this is how I want my finished block to look with my 2 whites and my 2 colors. I want to keep my little floral prints separate. They're the same and things like that. So before you go to press these, you want the 2 that are on opposite corners to press in the same direction. So with these 2, I have the seams pressed towards the middle. You see that here? Towards the middle. I need to fix that one. I just noticed there. To the middle. And then these other ones I have pressed out. You see that there? And let me look in the instructions. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. It's underneath my computer. I'll have to look. I'm not sure if it tells you which way to press them or not. But when we go to put these together, so I've got this here. We're going down this way. I've got this here. So this is going to be my seam. When I go to put these together, I want to sew right here on this side. What makes this really helpful is that, let me see if I can scoot in here, is that these seams are going in opposite directions. This one back here is going this way, the other one's going the other way, so that they inset with each other. They puzzle piece in with each other just like that, so that they sew together really good and you have a good seam there. So I just wanted to point that out. This is just my little tidbit on sewing with those seams together. So these two, the seams are pressed inward towards the middle of the X, and then these two, the seams are pressed outwards to the outside of the X. And we're going to sew these two together, and then we'll sew the whole thing together, and we will have our finished X marks the spot. So I'm gonna move my camera back, and again, I'm probably gonna edit that out here in just a second, but let's sew these two seams together. Okay, so again, let's see if I can get my lighting to work with me. So my seams are going in opposite directions. We're gonna line these two up. I'm not necessarily gonna line up my points. I want these two seams to line up right here, or where they meet in the X. So then we're just gonna pin that in place, and we're gonna start right here at the edge, and I'm gonna switch my foot out actually to my presser foot with my guide. I like my presser foot with my guide here. And sew that 1/4 inch. And then we're going to do the same thing with our other piece. We're going to make sure that these seams are set in on each other, and we're going to pin them in place and sew our 1/4 inch all the way down. So there we go. I've got these two. Let me separate them. And the reason we did that is so that when we open them up, you can see that they meet right where they're supposed to meet. You see that? They meet right up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press both of these seams in opposite directions, and we're going to sew those together, and we will have our finished block. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have pressed both of my seams in opposite directions here. And what's really nice now is that because I pressed, I'm going to put this together as I talk this with you, because I pressed my original blocks in opposite directions, they will then also puzzle piece in with each other when we sew these next two pieces together. So I'm going to put all my pins in, and I'm going to show you. I like to put a pin in usually in every spot where there is a seam so that I know everything's going to line up really well. So let's come back over here. So I'm going to have a seam right here where my X's meet on this side right here. So I put a pin in there. I'm going to have a seam where they meet in the middle, and then I'm going to have a seam where they meet with the other X over here. So I have got those 3 spots pinned together. I know that they are puzzle pieced into each other and that everything should line up just right. So let's 1/4 inch sew this all the way down right here, and we'll see how it looks. And I like to get my needle in that seam just a little bit before I pull my pin out. But again, you want to make sure you pull your pin out. You don't ever want to sew over your pin. But that way, I know my needle's going to hold where I had it in place, so that when I continue sewing, everything will still be lined up, or it should be at least. It doesn't always happen like that, but usually it does. So very simple and easy. Again, I say each month that block was the easiest one of them all, but this one definitely is one of the easy ones. So you can see that my seams meet together in the middle, and then you can see that they meet together on the outside too. So there you go. So you're going to make 6 of these. You're going to have 6 marks the X blocks. And yeah, that's going to be for the month of July. So let me tell you, if you were following along with us, let me tell you what we're going to do for August. And you can have your fabric and everything ready to go beforehand. So for August, we are going to be doing the orange peel applique blocks. So this one right here, I've told you guys, I love doing curves and things like that and applique. So I get to do curves and applique. This is fun. And there are, let's see, how many of these are there? I think there's a few of them, maybe. There is 3 of them, right? Yes. So if we look at our finished quilt, it's going to be these 3 right here. So we're going to do 3 of those for the month of August. So if you are following along and you want to get your fabric cut and ready to go, you can go ahead and do that. So thank you again for joining me on our Sweet Dreams Block of the Month quilt, and I will see you next month.